Last year, 2013 to be exact, was the 75th birthday of a cultural icon. Superman was created by Jerry Siegel and Joe Shuster, and first appeared in publication in Action Comics #1 in June 1938. So this June is Superman's 76th birthday, which is not considered as important a milestone, but is still significant. So, how did DC Comics, the company that has held all rights to the character for nearly 76 years, choose to honor this important pop cultural icon? They produced The Man of Steel, a few stamps, and a single cartoon short commemorating his history. The Man of Steel I have already reviewed with my associate and friend Bobby Calloway at great length. Suffice to say, I consider it to be the worst Superman film ever made, topping every episode of Smallville, Superman 4, and even the Superman musical in terms of terrible, terrible, terrible filmmaking on every level. It sucks harder than a sloth bear with an eating disorder. The short cartoon was awesome, and the stamps were okay with the exception of the one depicting the New 52 Superman. Gosh darn it, look at that thing. If ever there was an argument for why Joe Shuster should have won the battle for the rights of the character, it's this. But here's my main problem. You look at this stuff, and you're like, it's okay. But would you ever think that Superman was the pop culture icon that he is, based on this? Meanwhile, this year, it's Batman's 75th, and it would take me days to list all the amazing things they're doing to celebrate that. Hell, every cover of every title they put out for this entire year proudly proclaims that this is the year of the Bat. I don't remember that happening last year for old Soups. Essentially what I'm trying to say is that the legacy of Superman is in question right now. Ask people on the street about Superman, most everyone says the same thing. He's boring, he's got too many powers, what's with the glasses? Superman is literally the reason we call them superheroes. He may not have been the first superhero, but he is the patriarch, and he's one of my absolute favorites. But I could talk forever about what Superman meant to the history of comics. Even his detractors will tell you how important he is in that regard. But that's not what makes him a good superhero. So what does? What separates the people who get Superman from those who don't? And what is there to get? I think in order to describe what Superman means, to me at least, I must first explain my history with the character. When I was a kid, I didn't have many comic books. There weren't any comic shops where I lived that weren't thinly veiled hobby shops for perverts, so the only comics I had were the ones my dad had as a kid, the ones given to me by my grandparents, and the ones that I got from Toys R Us, which at the time sold big bundles of randomly assorted back issues. So I had to find other ways to get my superhero fix. TV and movies were okay, but they weren't all that available at the time either. The best resource I was able to find were the Dorling Kindersley Ultimate Guidebooks. They not only had information on a superhero's powers, weaknesses, supporting cast, and rogues gallery, but also information on major story arcs that had occurred in the books at the time. I ate these books up like candy. Through these movies and online sources, I devoured everything I could about all my favorite superheroes, including, but not limited to, Superman. Superman was not one of my favorites at first. I didn't know much about him except that he was my dad's favorite. I was excited though because I thought his superpowers were cool. I loved watching him kick giant robot ass in The Last Son of Krypton. I even thought Superman flying back in time to save Lois in Superman the movie was awesome. Hell, I even loved it when he and the 3 Phantom Zone criminals had the finger beam battle in Superman 2. I didn't understand it, but I frickin' loved it. I loved Clark Kent because of how silly, awkward, and passive-aggressive he could be, all while hiding within him the most powerful man in the galaxy. I also thought it was so cool that his secret identity wore a mask instead of him. And yes, of course the glasses don't make any sense, but neither does Robin's mask, and no one ever complains about that. But as I grew up, these two sides of Superman began to mean a lot more to me. The nerdy, shy Clark Kent began to resonate much more with me as I grew up feeling nervous and awkward around my peers. I was a shy kid and an extremely socially awkward one, and Clark Kent made me feel like that was okay, because like Clark Kent, underneath my shy exterior, I had hidden potential just waiting to get out. As a kid, I knew what was right and wrong. Good guys were always triumphant over evil, or so I thought. But when I grew up, I learned more and more about the gray areas in this world and how unfair life can be. But in Superman's world, he always knows what's right. Not only that, but he has the power to help. For example, I sit in my college dorm room and wonder whether or not Coney 2012 is a hoax, and if not, how me buying a t-shirt is going to help anything. Meanwhile, Superman has already flown over there, taken out Coney, and given all of the child soldiers ice cream and new parents. Because that's what Superman, at his most basic, is. Wish fulfillment. And I don't mean to say that he's just a male power fantasy or something stupid like that. If he was, he wouldn't be paired off with Lois Lane. We all know who wears the pants in that relationship. No, it's a fantasy of the ultimate man. Superman's most common nickname is the Man of Steel, but it's really a poor descriptor. His real tagline should be the Man of Tomorrow. People often think that Superman is a god, or that he's arrogant and needs to be brought down to our level, but he's not. Superman is exactly that. He's the ultimate man. But he's not here to rule, he's here to lead. His purpose is to help humanity towards a better way. He's just a man, but one who doesn't compromise his principles, and has the power to back that up. He is not a vigilante. He's not a soldier fighting a war. He's a citizen in a community, and he wants to contribute. He's not about being better than us, he's about making us better. He's about making a better world for everyone to live in. And people say that you can't write interesting stories about a man like that. What about the internal struggle of a man with all that power and responsibility, dealing with that struggle day by day? Why is that not compelling? To see a man who could so easily become the most vicious, evil man in the universe, consistently make hard choices and triumph, isn't interesting? To see a man who can topple planets, made helpless against the power of time and chance, isn't interesting. The romance between Superman and Lois Lane, the ultimate man, and an Earthwoman who is in many ways stronger than he is, isn't interesting. They also say that you can't make up a threat that could face that, and I say that's nonsense. Lex Luthor, Parasite, even General Zod are all images of humanity twisted. All of Superman's major foes are a commentary on the state of humanity in our modern world, each of them in their own way saying that the only way to survive in this world is to give in to the madness and evil around you. But Superman beats them back, always saying, no, we can be better than this. Humanity is flawed, but we have the power to rise above and become the supermen and women that we were always meant to be. All except Toyman. He's just creepy and weird.
The poor little boy was bounced from foster home to foster home like a little toy that nobody wanted. Childhood is a terrible thing to lose, Miss Lane, but I'm getting mine back with a vengeance.
Superman is not only one of the greatest superheroes ever made because of his place in comic book history, but because he is still the mold that all other superheroes have tried to break. Nearly every other popular superhero has either tried to ape his style or deliberately tried to avoid it, and in so doing, become an unintentional commentary upon him. Superman is the most pure and good superhero story in all of comics history. All other superheroes are simply variations on his theme. You have no idea how hard it was not to write the words, "with great power comes great responsibility," into this video, because that concept, while eloquently phrased by Stan Lee, has become the central moral of all comic book heroes since the original Superman. Superman is an icon. He is modern myth. He is a timeless story and a timeless character. He has survived countless previous attempts to make him hip or relevant, otherwise known as make him so dated you can turn him into butter, and he will survive countless more. Superman will always be there to make us believe that a man can fly.